Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. A little exhausted, but here in one piece.
How were the roads?
They were okay. It was a very boring drive. You couldn't see too far and
Uh,
everything wet.
and you had to go a little slow, probably.
Yeah, yeah. So it took me closer to 3.5.
Ah, what is it on a good day usually?
2:45, maybe 3.
Uh-huh. So, yep. Well, you're at your dad's, you said, right?
Yep, yep. And jacketed up because he likes it a little colder than I do.
So
You know,
yeah, so there you are. So I seem to have a funny thing here. Um, so we do have a quorum, but we also, I know David's planning to come. I don't know whether Michael is planning to come or not. So let me just go to full view and let me look at participants. Because sometimes people are in the waiting room and I don't see it until then.
oh, hello, Jude. Hello, Ed.
Oh, there's Jeff. Yay.
I don't see Jeff yet, but hello.
Well, he's joining. He was in the waiting room and he's here. Yay. So I think we will go ahead and get started. I do expect David Menzies because he said he was coming, and we're not sure whether Michael is able to attend. So let me call the meeting to order, and we're pretty close to on time. So yay. Yay, and we have Jeff. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. So we have more than a quorum, which is good. And let me just get my notes going here. 3, we have Connor and Jude, Ed, and Jeff. Okay, so I'll share my screen and we'll look at the agenda. Show the whole shebang here. So our agenda here, open the meeting, which we did, adopt the agenda, which I'll ask me to adopt the agenda in a moment. I have a list of all the minutes. You know, we've never actually approved minutes. I still have a set that kind of I didn't do, but I have a lot that I did do. So anyway, at some point we'll get all those approved. The status of the laws in progress, Housing Oversight Task Force, again, that's still in progress, and we're hoping shortly to be able to have version 2 further review by the general population of Woodstock pretty soon. So in any event, the rewrite is happening. Executive summary draft is nearing completion, so that's still going on. So wellhead protection and telecommunications, as everybody knows from last month's meeting, those did get approved by the town board. And the only reason why I still have them here is because every time we have a meeting, I'm going to go back and check the town website of code and see whether it showed up there yet, because it's been sent to get added, and I think it may take 3 months to get added. But I just want to make sure that that I'm checking periodically to make sure it did get added, so I can go back. None of this stuff that happened 20 years ago with the wellhead protection where it never showed up for some reason. I know it's been sent to the state, but I'm planning to track it getting incorporated into the website as it should into the laws, because that's what's going to make it official. So the agenda for today, the main topic is scenic overlay, and we've really been through the entire document, but the goal is completing the draft. I don't know if we can do that today, but I think we're very, very close, and it should be possible, but we'll see. And our next meeting would be the second Monday in February. And of course, our future meetings are, I've only got them scheduled through through June, but I expect to go beyond that. But anyway, for now, planning second and fourth Monday through June. And then future meeting plans, always status of laws in progress, and then other things that may be coming up. So we'll talk about future meeting plans. The whole goal of the day, though, is to talk about the scenic overlay law. But when we finish that discussion, we'll talk about what are we thinking of working on next. When we said that last time, people said, well, we don't want to start anything next until we get the scenic overlay done and on to the next reviewing party. So that's what we said last time, but we'll see what people think this time. Now, what I want to say, well, first of all, do I have anybody to approve the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Yay, Connor. Do we have a second? Yay, Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Yay, we have a quorum. Passed. Perfect. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the scenic overlay law, which is our topic for today. What I will say, as people probably know, or maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I'm the town board liaison to the Woodstock Environmental Commission. And the Woodstock Environmental Commission was talking about at their meeting, at their last meeting, they meet the first and the third Wednesday of every month. So on the third Wednesday, which would have been last week, they were talking about their 2021 goals. And one of their goals is getting more involved with laws that have to do with the environment, because they may have ideas or things they want to share with us. And I talked about things that we're working on, and they were hoping to see the scenic overlay law before it went to the town board. So I don't mind sharing it with them. We're the zoning revision committee. So, we're going to wind up taking input from everybody eventually, but the Woodstock Environmental Commission works very hard to keep our environment, as good as it can be. And so if people on this committee don't have an issue with it, I would like to go ahead and, when we finish our work today, send what we have, assuming that we say, hey, this is it, send it to the Woodstock Environmental Commission. And at their next meeting, which would be the first Wednesday of February, ask them for their feedback. And then at our next meeting to review whatever feedback they have, and then polish it up. And the hope is at that point, then we send it to the board. So if people on this committee don't mind the WEC getting a preview of it before it goes out. Otherwise, the normal process is it goes to the town board, it goes to the Woodstock Planning Board, it goes to the county planning board, comes back to us with any feedback we get, and then it eventually goes to a public hearing. They would see it then. And so I would like to give it to them early in the, they're asking for it, they're interested. So instead of making them wait all that time, get their feedback now since they're interested. So I don't know if anybody has any opposition to that.
No.
Okay. Let me just make my notes. To WEC next, but to ask them for, and it's a short law, so it should be reasonable. So I'm, as you can see, still sharing my screen, and I don't see anybody else in the waiting room. I'm going to do participants for a moment just to see. Nope, nobody's in the waiting room. So
Ed is muted. Were you saying something, Ed?
yeah, Ed, you're on mute. Yeah, thank you, Judy. we don't want to miss what Ed is saying.
There. No, I think I don't see any. We've worked on this scenic overlay for a year now, and there was plenty of opportunity for the people to get involved in it. And I think we are close. I wrote a new version of Section D, Part 1, and sent it to everybody about a couple hours ago. And also, okay, I advocated taking out Section D2 on the recommendation of a member of the committee, because I think it's probably because I'm very active with the tree committee to rewrite the tree law. I've been working.
Oh, good.
Reworking with two other members of the tree committee, and we have a good step toward a new draft of an improved tree law. And I will make sure that the tree committee gets the right to participate and inquire for funds from the town board. I mean, we can figure out that language and answer what Jeff's concern was. So I took out Section D2 and rewrote Section D1.
Okay. Which
mentions,
I've got it up here.
Which mentions the tree. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So D1 now says, and of course, when it, D1, utilization of the Woodstock Tree Committee and assisting the planning board, augmenting and assisting the planning board. Yeah, utilization of the Woodstock Tree Committee and assisting the planning board, augmenting and assisting the planning board in enforcing the standards in the scenic overlay district.
Yeah, I see there's an error there. Utilization of the Woodstock Tree Committee in assisting the planning board in enforcing the standards of the. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just do a copy and let me put it in the master document.
Okay. Because that, and then if we take out D2, that'll answer Chris's question about the town board being required to put something in a budget. I know that
Yeah,
was Connor's idea, but if it can't be done, we'll do it when we revise the Woodstock tree law.
yeah. And I'm trying to move this thing down. I'm gonna have to stop sharing so I can move this so that I can do something with it here. Just a sec. There we go. And I'll share again. Okay, so first things first, I always rewrite, or I always
So
read.
the headline of D1,
Yeah, just give me, I'll be getting to it soon. Just a sec here. And today is the 23rd. I never like to overwrite what I had. Go down to. Okay, so I'm going to put it underneath here and we'll look at it together.
well, exchange, the headline for section D1 or section D should be utilization of the Woodstock Tree Committee in assisting the planning board.
Yeah, okay, so I'm kind of I have, there's a method to my madness. So.
Yeah, no, that's what I propose. I'm not saying.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. And let me just get
I
things.
didn't
so
do
that-
this in Word, so.
Yeah, that's okay. And not a problem.
So it should be D.
No, I know it'll be right by the time we're done. Okay. So the first part is the header, and
Yeah,
the
the
other
header.
part right, and I'll get that. But the rest of it is a paragraph, so the rest of it should read as a paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, you can.
I'm just getting.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, there you go. I just want to make it so everybody can read it, so everybody can. Okay, so this is the paragraph 1. So we're comparing this, and I'm going to make it blue just so we.
This is the top, the word beginning with utilization is a headline replaces D,
Mission.
the mission.
Right. So, okay, so
Because it's
we're
not
getting it.
really a mission. It's not, the mission is not exact.
Okay. So we're looking, so just so everybody knows, so we're looking at taking what says D and number 1, right? So this will be a D, and then this will be, and then we won't need a 1 because there's only one of them, but that's all right for now. I'm
Yeah.
just so we know what we're comparing it to. So we're comparing this D to that D, we're comparing that one to that one, and the goal is to get rid of number 2. Okay. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read again what we had and what we do have now.
I mean, I would love to let part 2 in, but I think Jeff has a valid point that there's not the power of the zoning law to require the town board to make a line item or an expenditure.
Yeah. So,
So I would just take out D2 and leave
well, I'll
D1.
take, the Woodstock Tree Commission letter. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna take out is this first sentence, which has to do with going for money. And so I didn't yet take out the second sentence. The tree committee may, upon request of the planning board, conduct annual or semi-annual follow-up visits to applicants to monitor the health growth of the trees planted towards repairing the viewscape.
Well, you could stick that, at the end of what I wrote on 1. I don't know.
Right. And I also want to read the earlier one also. Okay, so utilization of the Woodstock Tree Committee in addition, in assisting the planning board.
Yeah, you can just take out the last sentence of D1. I thought the word mission of the Woodstock Tree Committee, it was
Yeah. Well,
not
well, so,
quite appropriate, but
so my preference would be, and I'll just make it red for the moment. So my preference would be to remove what I just made red, because that's telling the planning board what they have to do. I like the way you've worded it down in blue. The planning board may ask. I like that wording, saying that planning board shall vote, tells them that they have to, shall vote to request them for the tree committee on advisory level, and their service made available to applicants at every step of the process. That's pretty directive, but augmenting assisting the planning board and enforcing the standards. The planning board may ask for consultation assistance of the tree committee on advisory level on issues regarding the enforcement of the scenic overlay standards, on clear cutting, excessive topping, and limiting to trees. So I like what you have in blue. I would remove what I put in red unless anybody says keep it. Oh, Jeff has his hand up. Sorry, Jeff, I was not looking at your hand.
I personally think the whole section should go away, because even what's been modified, the may ask, it's like they can ask anybody they want to ask. They can ask me my thoughts. I don't need to put that in the code.
yeah, but it gives strength to the possibility of it occurring. We want to strengthen the tree committee's role in town. They've done a lot of good work.
And
And
it should
this
be in the tree.
doesn't require it, but this emphasizes the possibility of it.
I think that's part of the tree committee charter, not part of the planning board charter, not part of a law. That's my belief. You know, if you're doing the tree committee law, then I think that's where it all belongs. Not here. You know, if the tree committee, if the town
Well, what
feels
if-
the tree committee
well,
should be an advisory committee for scenic overlay work, great, that's super. Put it in the tree committee work, not in this. That's my take on it. And the
Well, the
word
tree,
may is meaningless to me. The word may is meaningless. It's like
Yeah.
they may not, it's up to them. It's a meaningless word.
but it does tie them together and remind them that it reminds them that the tree committee is a resource if they choose, and it gets away from people saying, oh, the tree committee is not allowed to do that. And there is a difference between the tree law and the tree committee, because the tree law will be about trees, and the tree law is, I think today doesn't cover what the tree committee does. So the tree law is about trees, what you can and can't do with trees, but the tree committee mission is on the town website. I'm okay with the softened statement. I agreed before, and Jeff, I totally agreed before, and getting out of the, well, you don't want to call for money, you don't want to put the budget here in the law, that the budget's its own process. I'm okay with the softened statement that says, hey, don't forget you can tie in the tree committee. I don't know whether, so Jude, I haven't heard from you. What do you think, Jude?
I think it's a good idea to put it in case anybody questions whether or not, as you said, it's allowed even. So I don't think it hurts anything by it being in here. And I think it's just a reinforcement of the law saying that other committees in town are going to get involved with monitoring what's going on with the trees and the scenic overlay. I don't think it hurts anything by being in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against putting it in as we are amending it, but my suggestion to perhaps address what Jeff was saying was to change it from a specific directive for the tree committee to just a more general directive for a appointed or otherwise body, to say, that a committee, whether it exists now or in the future, is to be formed that is tasked with managing the assessment and remediation of these things. So to me, making mention of the tree committee, especially at this stage, I'm comfortable with it. But if we wanted to go broader, my concern is just that the law tasks a body with assessing and scheduling remediation, and that it doesn't leave a gap of it doesn't leave an accountability gap of who's going to be doing that, because it isn't the planning board. They're not there. They can take up the complaint, but they'll tell you they don't have the knowledge or the staff to recommend a remediation schedule.
And Jeff's got his hand up again. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I guess my concern with the tree committee, naming the tree committee specifically, is the tree committee itself is not a by statute committee that must exist in Woodstock. It's created and managed by the town board. The town board could abolish the tree committee.
So
That's a problem to me, to putting that in code.
So would you feel more comfortable putting a more generic, like tasking a body, not a specific body or a specific committee, but to say a committee, a body, whether existing now or after this law is passed, must be tasked with doing this work?
Yeah, and I would be kind of opposed to that, because then you're getting really mushy. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, the town does have a tree committee, and the town, and that's a committee that's recognized by the town. If you say it needs to be a committee, you could get Joe, there's no Joe here, right? You get Joe and his brother, and they're going to make all the decisions for these people because the planning board decided Joe and his brother, so I would not, if we left it, I would be okay talking about the Woodstock Tree Committee. Jeff's 100% correct. It's not a by statute committee, and the town board could decide someday to say, hey, let's consolidate committees. But I worry about just saying a committee. We'd have to say it's a committee formalized by the Woodstock Town Board. It's got to be a formal committee, not just the planning board reaches out to Joe and his brother and says they call themselves a committee, and there they go.
That's what I'm putting forward, is that if we were to replace that language with an aforementioned formalized committee. That being said, I'm fine with the tree committee, and maybe part of this, because again, we're going to send it to the WEC, then we're going to send it to the town board, and they're going to have thoughts and ideas too, probably surrounding that.
Right.
So
Sure.
if we sent it with the language of the tree committee in there as is, we can maybe add an addendum or like be there when we present it to say that we are recommending a revision of the mission of the tree committee. And perhaps if we feel, that, especially given the way things have been going the last few years, to maybe, become more committal and and make them statuted, to make them they can't.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't want to lock ourselves in, but I'll go to Jeff, you in a minute. So, but the other thought that I have is, hypothetically speaking, playing devil's advocate. So when we give this to the WEC, because, let's get everybody's input. What if they say, well, what about us? Because we're the Woodstock Environmental Commission. Maybe they ought to come to us and the tree committee. Maybe we should be in there swinging the bat. So I guess that may be something I worry about. But anyway, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking too, is that there might be other committees out there that have input to this. There might be a rock committee at some point, I don't know, that talks about the rocks and talks about the scenic, whatever. So to me, utilization of whatever the word might be, official town committee and assisting the planning board, and then just change it to be augmenting and assisting the planning board and enforcing the standards of the scenic overlay. Planning board may ask for consultation and assistance with any official town committee on advisory level, blah, blah, blah. That leaves it open for that. To me, we can't, if we put this here, we are creating a statute that means a tree committee must exist.
Okay, so let me, I'm just going to make some changes based on what you said. And Judy, go ahead, Judy.
Do we not, in the zoning law, give some power to the Commission for Civic Design? Don't
The commission of the CCD?
CCD. I mean, if you're talking about by statute, I assume you're talking about New York State law. I mean, I don't know the CCD.
Town law does not establish a tree committee as an official committee.
Has it established the CCD?
I thought,
I don't know the answer to that.
PD is actually in the same boat as that. They
Tree committee, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's what I'm saying. I don't really see the difference, except they actually have some power in that they if they vote against something, the planning board has to override it with a majority plus one. So I'm not really sure why we're so concerned about putting something in here about the tree committee. Because we're not
Yeah.
giving them, they don't have authority, they're giving advice and maybe going to be the follow-up to whatever the planning board determines in terms of remediation, but I don't
Yeah,
see
I
why
agree.
that's such a
I
big deal.
agree. I have to say, and I think I hadn't thought about it that way, but during my time on the planning board, I became aware of that. And I won't get into it, but I've been kind of realizing, like we at the planning board really respected the CCD, and I'm starting to realize how underfunded under everything they are. They're really just like the tree committee in that way. They're not safe. Let's put it that way.
They're not safe. Sorry. I
What's that?
was,
I mean, I don't want to get too into it. That's not why we're here, but their budget absolutely slashed this year.
well, no, let me talk to that for a minute. What we as a town board did, the quorum of the town board, the decision was made to take budget, and we have a lump area so that volunteer committees, there's a lump area, instead of trying to parcel out, well, you get $5 and you get $3 and you get $8 and you get this and that. We said, well, we have a lot of committees. They did request money to do a lot of things. And sometimes things materialize and sometimes they don't, because you have to do homework before you can spend the money. If you're going to do a mailing, you have to do the homework first. You have to do what the draft looks like and you have to get it approved. So people have a lot of ideas. What will materialize, what won't, we don't know. We have one lump of money. So CCD and all kinds of committees have the opportunity to say, hey, can we use money out of that lump? So yeah, you may say the CCD budget did get cut, but there is money in one bulk area where, and it didn't equal what they all asked for. They all asked for like a huge number. So it doesn't equal that, but there is money in a bulk area that different committees can go, and you always need to go to the town board anyway before spending the money. So
Appreciate that. I mean, again, I have thoughts that are different on that, but it's not really why we're here. I mean,
yeah, there you go. Okay. And Jeff,
the CCD is definitely though something that is codified as a role in the zoning law and is mentioned there. And I want to just further that I agree with Jude on that.
okay, and I kind of missed Jude. I missed your central point. Your central point was, what was your central point again, Jude? And I'll go to Jeff after Jude. I know you went, if you can summarize it. Sorry for missing part of it.
No, I was just saying that we have, in the law, we have provisions for the CCD as in a role in zoning and planning. And I don't really see a problem with mentioning the tree committee here.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see it. I don't see it. And if the tree committee ceases to exist, then this part of the law would be void. It's just an advisory anyway.
Yeah.
It's just giving them a little bit of, I don't want to say authority, but legitimacy.
Well, so Jeff has his hand up and then I'll go after Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
The CCD is in the zoning code as established agency. You cannot abandon the CCD without changing the local law. So local law establishes CCD. Local law does not establish the tree committee. The tree committee is established by acts of the town board. That's the difference. CCD cannot be taken away without a change in local law. Tree committee can be taken away by.
But so is the zoning
different
law.
levels of law.
Well,
Different levels.
zoning law is a big deal to change. So zoning law is a big deal to change. It is a lot easier if a committee was created by resolution of the town board, a resolution gets it back. If we're going to change a law, it goes through a whole process. It goes in front of the lawyer. It goes to the Woodstock Planning Board. It goes to the County Planning Board. It goes for public hearing. It's a big deal to change the law. So you can't just say, oh, then we'll just take it out. It has to be well thought. It has to be a really good reason to add it. But I know I cut you off, Jude.
I was just going to say, Ed, you were part of the creation of the CCD. So you probably know better what that process was, but okay, that's all I was going to say. Ed.
They're just different levels. All I'm saying is they're different levels. The CCD is in
I
the zoning code
heard
as
you,
a law.
Jeff, I heard you. Jeff, I heard you. I understood you and I heard you.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, let me let me cut to the chase for a moment. So I added another D at the bottom. So I added this D that says kind of what we said, but doesn't say tree committee. So would anybody, how do people feel about this item D? That doesn't say the tree committee, it says a committee, utilization of a Woodstock committee. The Woodstock Town Board may assign a committee the duties. So you may assign the duties to the WEC, you could assign these duties, but whoever the Woodstock Town Board assigns the duties, the duty would be this, that Connor is recommending that Ed has put in some words.
I mean, my inclination is to be as specific as possible, and if and maybe this is an opportunity, because if we can agree on the WEC, that's fine too. I mean, the tree committee can get involved through them. I think again, this law is about trees, so I'm of the mind that, I'm not beyond recommending, with this set that we put in, that the town board, legitimize the tree committee in whatever way is needed to make this palatable for everyone. But my thing is, I just don't, like you said, we don't want Joe and Jack or whatever to get, to just be green lighting everything that happens up there. And so, going with, I guess is my long way of saying I would be supportive of including the WEC, saying the WEC and move the tree committee, but I want it, I would love it to be clear so that there's just no.
Well, the clarity would come from the Woodstock Town Board. The Woodstock Town Board the clarity would come when the Woodstock Town Board has a resolution to assign the committee's duties, and then you see, and you go in the mission on the Woodstock website, in their mission statement, it includes that duty. So that's the formality of it. The formality of it is the Woodstock Town Board may assign, again, so in any event, because, and I'm not saying the WEC is going to want to get involved here. All I'm saying is, if we say the tree committee, they might say, well, what about us? But this way it says there's a responsibility here that could be that the Woodstock Town Board may assign to somebody.
I mean, do you want to give, in this case, what about putting an example? So utilization of a Woodstock committee in parentheses, i.e.
That's fine. That's fine. May assign to a committee, for example, the Woodstock Tree Committee, for example. I'm okay with that.
Tree committee or WEC, if we want to just, say like, or one of those two, in augmenting.
Well, they've never raised their hands and said, the last thing I want to do is liaison. I know I don't want to raise their hand for something that they haven't told me they want to raise their hand for. So
well, fair enough. But they are saying they want to be more involved in this. So I'm down to use them as an example if they are, but we know that the tree committee is passionately and emphatically expressing their desire to be involved in this specifically.
Yeah. Well, so if I add that as an example, that's an obvious example. And Jeff, go ahead.
Here's my issue with it. And someone reads this code. This is a code. This is a law. Now, we're proposing this to be a law. They read this law. They see the words Woodstock Tree Committee. Say, oh, great. Let me go find out the Woodstock Tree Committee in the law. No place in the law will they find the words Woodstock Tree Committee, because it does not exist in the law. If they look for Woodstock Environmental Commission, they'll find it. If they look for CCD, they'll find it. They will not find Woodstock Tree Committee defined in the law. That's the problem I have with it.
Well,
And
that's
so-
easily, I mean, you could put a footnote or another a sentence in parentheses. The Woodstock Tree Committee is covered by the Woodstock Tree Law. It passed in whenever it was, 2007.
That's fine. That's if you want to add that to the zoning code, that's fine. But that's not what we're asking here.
Well,
you're now trying to add.
I would like to hold
to the zoning code.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the rewritten section D.
Okay.
Are you section D double rewritten?
There's two D's here, Ed. There's the D as it was, and then the D that I put in that indicated that it doesn't have to be the tree committee, it could be a different committee. So I'm not sure which D you're liking.
For example, the Woodstock Tree Committee, that's fine with me.
So you like, so I'm gonna take this out for the moment because, so you're okay if
Whatever,
I,
what you came up with, would make a motion to accept.
okay, and before we do that, I would like to see if there are other changes that we want to make. So, and you're saying, so is there anything, and I'm kind of going bit by bit here. So I'm going to take out this red. Nobody said keep it. The planning board shall vote to request. I'm taking out that. And I'm just reading everything else here to see if there's anything that we didn't include that we think we should.
I would really like to take the original D2 and tack that on to the rewritten D1.
This part.
It-
Okay.
Really specifically because it mentions the two most important things, which is monitoring the health and growth of the trees and conducting regular, or in this case, annual or semi-annual follow-ups. I mean, that's the prescription right there. That's it.
So rather than allowing the planning board to consult with the tree committee, now we are making it so that the town board has to do that?
No, we're saying that the town board, we're saying it doesn't have to be the tree committee. The town board can appoint a committee to do this duty. So here's this duty that ought to get latched to some committee, and we're saying the town board can appoint it. That's what this says. So, and I'm just kind of looking here to see if there's anything else. The purview mission of the tree committee and assisting the planning board in enforcing the standards of the scenic overlay district.
You know what, if I may, Laura, I gotta say, I mean, that's the only thing the town board may assign. That does make it seem optional.
Yes, it does.
And I really, and I think we can be, again, without prescribing who they assign it to. I think we can be firmer with saying the town board
Now,
shall. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, no. We're all, so I'm trying to, I like some of the wording up here in number 1, and I'm just thinking of how to put that in down below. Okay, the Woodstock Town Board shall assign a committee, for example, the Woodstock Tree Committee, the duties of augmenting and assisting the planning board in enforcing the standards. Oh, good. So this is repeated of the scenic overlay district. Include consultation on assessing the efforts to avoid and mitigate any damage from illegal tree. So this part is already there. This part, I'm just trying to see if there's a way to, I'm putting a red just to call it out. What? There we go. So I think that this part's already there, the part in black. I wish I saw something.
So not to throw another wrench in the works, but the planning board doesn't enforce anything.
Oh, you mean it's not their role to enforce? Ah, well, isn't that a good point?
And where do we have that? Where's the word? There we go. In
You've raised a very good point.
Okay, so maybe in just replace enforcing with in alerting the town to violations in standards of the scenic overlay district.
Assisting so you would be taking out the duties of augmenting and assisting. We would be replacing a bunch of stuff.
No, just
How
straight.
would the planning board know that?
What?
Yeah, what does the planning board
How would
have?
the planning board know that?
How would the planning board know what?
That someone has violated the standards of the scenic overlay district?
Yeah, and why would we tell the planning board? Because Drew's point's excellent. They're not in charge of enforcement.
Well, right now, the planning board sees all the applications that come through. And if they have, the idea here is, as we covered in the other parts of the law, we're trying to create a framework where
So they apply the standards. They don't enforce the standards. Maybe applying the standards is a better word.
well,
Yeah, but what if someone doesn't go to the planning board and just cuts a bunch of trees? Right? The planning board doesn't get involved in that.
Well, that's sort of what happened with us on, you know, the what was that name? The metal roof on the on the other side of the mountain. Sorry, there's a lot of noise
It was brought to you not because
in
it
the
got trees,
background.
it was brought to you for other reasons, and that came up as part of that.
And that came up as part of it. So I guess the idea here is that if someone is found to have been cutting trees, I mean, illegally, it has to be found out in the first place. If they're cutting trees illegally in the view shed, then that means that they didn't get a special use permit. And I would think they would have to come before the planning board to remediate that. And part of that, and at that point, the planning board would initiate that as part of their site visit and their site review plan to assess damage in conjunction with the aforementioned committee we're talking about. And from there, they recommend, again, in conjunction with this other committee, a remediation schedule as part of the applicant's ability either to finish and acquire their special use permit or certificate of occupancy, which I believe we stipulated.
I'm confused, Connor. Maybe I'm wrong about what the planning board does, but so someone has occupancy in the scenic overlay. They don't need any permits. They already live there, right? House is fine. They cut 5 acres of trees. How does that get in front of the planning board?
Well, that would well, I guess again, that's a violation of the zoning law in the scenic overlay. Ostensibly, if this law gets passed, they will have been informed of that, and so they'll be in violation of their certificate, and all of that becomes and essentially that is the process. So if we want to go back and see at
That
what
goes to the planning board. I thought that goes to the zoning enforcement officer.
So,
yeah,
so often things will go back to the planning board to be legalized. We had a lot of those when the law first came into effect, that things that had already happened came back to the planning board and they were quote legalized. And sometimes it was, you know, through remediation. Sometimes it was just a situation that the zoning law caught some people in subdivisions that had never been approved. But I think it's likely it would go back to the planning board to get that approval. And however they would have to do that would be through some kind of remediation. Right, Connor?
yeah, and you know, the other thing though, to Jeff's point, is we mentioned the zoning enforcement officer all over this in our old and new language. So it may not be a bad idea to insert, now I can't see because Laura's got a little something over there, but to say the town board shall assign to committee, for example, with such the duties of augmenting and assisting the planning board and or ZEO. Because it's gonna if the system is working somewhat well, like that complaint is going to land with one of those two bodies first, either the zoning enforcement officer or the planning board. And I know it's landed with me plenty of times in my tenure there, but you know, Jeff's right. I'm sure there are times when it might not come to our attention, and making sure that, you know, there's a pipeline to work with the ZEO is of course good too. Though again, if we're talking about remediation, I think this will always lead back to the planning board, because we'll need site plans that represent and delineate that remediation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just added a Claire Keith. I'm not quite sure who that is.
Hi, Claire. That is one of our local people, Claire Keith.
Laura, there's a typo in zoning. You have zone in instead of zoning.
Oh, the zone in enforcement officer. So, okay. So we seem to have a Claire Keith. Hello, Claire. So Claire, you're on mute. I'm not sure if you're hoping to
Yes,
speak.
I am on mute. I'm supposed to be on mute, am I not? But thank you so much for the welcome. I was mostly testing out how it worked, because I'm working my way through knowing how the town functions after all those years in Woodstock. So I will shut off my mic and let you do your work again.
Okay.
Thank-
Okay. There you go. Yeah, sure. Okay. So anyway, for my own satisfaction, I've taken out everything from up above that needed to be there. So I'm going to delete this. I think we're agreed that this can go because I added this statement in red. So I'm taking it upon myself to delete that. So this is what we have so far, and I'm just going to go up for a moment and see how.
One
Well,
minor
the first
comment to this,
line,
if that's okay.
the first line of D is a header. It should be a headline.
Exactly. So I added a space. Should I indent this? Is that the thought?
Yes,
Indent and put a 1 or indented.
and put a D in front of it.
Well, I have a
Because
D in front of that. So hang on just a sec here. 0.25.
And on the title of that, can we change it to be utilization of a Woodstock committee in assisting enforcement?
Yeah. Great. I like that.
Okay. See, an assistant of enforcement. Okay. So the Woodstock Town Board shall assign to a committee, for example, the Woodstock Tree Committee, the duties of augmenting and assisting the planning board and or zoning enforcement officer in applying the standards in the scenic overlay district in an effort to avoid and mitigate any damage from illegal tree modification in the scenic overlay district. The planning board
Or
ZEO may ask, and I'm going to put ZEO up here.
cool.
May ask this committee for consultation and assistance on an advisory level on assessing issues regarding the enforcement of the scenic overlay standards on clear cutting and excessive topping and limbing. Should be limbing of trees, shouldn't it be, rather than
Yeah,
two trees?
of trees.
Of trees, okay. This committee may, upon request of the planning board, conduct
Or
annual or
Or
ZEO. Okay, or ZEO. The request of the planning board or ZEO conduct annual or semi-annual follow-up visits to applicants to monitor the health growth of the trees planted towards repairing the viewscape.
Love it.
Jeff's got his hand up.
Do we want to add a clause in this allowing the planning board or CEO to put in a financial cost for the annual review?
Well, I worry about
Did
putting
he
financial
say
stuff
we can
in the law.
predetermine? Can't, or
mean,
like
From the offender?
From the
you
offender.
suggest
From the offender.
the fine structure?
I mean,
That
you know,
should
if we're asking someone to take
that should-
responsibility for checking this,
because
Yeah, that ought to
is
be a
essentially
stand-
how these are going to be paid for.
Well, I think
based
if
on what
it-
their fines were.
I think if we do that, it should be a
Ed, you are on
standalone.
mute, sir.
Oh, I'm not on mute.
Oh, no,
No.
you're, I can hear Ed. I can hear Ed.
Oh, I couldn't hear him. Hold on one sec. Huh. Sorry, go ahead.
I think if Jeff's suggestion is put in place, to do it as a separate paragraph, because if there's ever a lawsuit, they might sue on that issue, but it would leave the rest of the paragraph in place. So
I think it makes sense, because if we're asking someone to go periodically to do something, it might make sense to have that person or group be compensated for it.
Well, so you're saying,
That what I would say, like in my wording, is the planning board or ZEO may assess a annual fee on the, what's the term I want, the offender,
the applicant?
applicant or
offender,
offender, whatever, I'm not sure what their term is, to compensate the
Whoops, this
committee.
keeps
and
going
their
away,
assessments.
sorry.
Yeah. So I'm wondering then if we want to say, because ultimately I think any fines that come out of this would have to be approved by the town board, correct?
Well, we're kind of, all of a sudden we're getting into fines and all of a sudden we're getting into,
yeah, because I know from helping write this law that if you have somebody that's able to enact a fine, then somebody can go into court and file a motion against it. So I mean,
Okay,
So
it's, I
well,
think you're opening up a can of
okay, so
legal
ignore it then. It's
worms.
just an idea, just an idea.
No, it's a good idea, but I don't know if we can float it.
Okay,
okie dokie. Well, I mean, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? I'd like to second Ed's earlier motion to proceed as amended.
Yeah, I like it.
Does anybody not like it? Okay,
Love
yeah. Oh, okay, so I need to write for my minutes, so, well, I don't know, do we need a motion? Because if we all agree, I just have in the minutes, this is what we've got.
Well,
So,
Ed raised it, I seconded.
okay.
Yeah,
So
and I
motion,
like the whole law as written.
Yeah, so
I'm
uh,
okay, I'm good with this law and I'm good with the rest of the law too, so we can.
Okay, so,
I'm
so,
good with-
so let me just go, let me take it from the top. Okay. So, well, so do we want, so we've been through this before. This is actually taken from the, oh, so what did I do here? The scenic overlay district, established by the scenic character of the special permit. So I think this is what my note here is, just this is the copy of the law that I took it from. So so we're saying I'm gonna take out these words. We don't need these words, I don't think. So we're saying scenic overlay district set to protect the scenic overlay is set to protect the scenic character of the town of Woodstock and requires special permit review of all development at an elevation greater than 1,200 feet above sea level, delineated in the United States to mitigate the visual impact. And then the standards itself. Then we have the standards itself. Intent and purpose is, I'm just reading through it one more time. Viewscapes and escarpments. I'll read silently. I'm assuming everybody's going to read it. Yeah, I'm going to put a hyphen there. It wanted a hyphen. And I see they spell out zoning enforcement officer in every case. So I'll probably go down here. Hang on a sec. I'm just going to spell it out in each case here. Whoops, yeah, we got a lot of stuff here. I'm just being consistent here.
So I hesitate to bring this up, but I'm going to.
Go ahead.
I do understand that the problem with the scenic overlay district is that it's not being adhered to. But there are situations where people are above 1,200 square feet and there is zero visual impact. I remember somebody coming to the planning board with an application and you could not see them from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We still made them jump through some hoops at the time, which I thought was wrong. That's the least worry of it all, but there is, that's something to be considered. And I don't know if there's a place for that here.
well, if I can jump in on that, when we were on the board there, because I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but I can think of plenty of cases where me and Peter or another site rep would go out there, take a look at the property and say, you can't see this from anywhere. You just can't do it. So, we would either waive the requirement, say it's of too small a scope, but that's part more really of the culture of the planning board, I think, than something we can prescribe here.
I wonder, that's all.
Okay, so I guess I'm reading down what I have on the screen here.
So I just have a question. I didn't realize, can we invalidate a C of O because of this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Did we say we could? Is
Yeah, it says we can.
that in here
Bottom of that paragraph.
of this paragraph? Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know that we can kick someone out of their house if they cut a tree. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you don't
Well-
kick them out.
But
That's
but if they lose their C of O, what is the follow-on action?
I guess
If
when
they
they
live
go
there.
sell it, they have to fix the problems.
I think if you don't have a CEO, you can't legally get insurance.
That is one of the big things there. But also we're talking about mounting fines, you know. We're going to be able to scale this accordingly. So if someone cuts down a tree, we have room in that fine structure to not, you know, house them entirely and still go after people who have practically unlimited resources that we turn up on their radar when we're trying to fix these issues.
So I'm going to highlight this for discussion. So I'm concerned about this statement because when you put something on the Woodstock Town website, everybody can see it. And I would, you know, your properties, I know it's not, I know it can be public knowledge, but I guess I wouldn't want my property to be listed on the town website. I would think that it's okay to say the town of Woodstock shall create a computerized list of the properties and share with the assessor, but I'm not sure if I like placing on the town of Woodstock, the Woodstock Town website. That seems.
I do think I agree with that. I think it definitely comes off as a little bit invasive.
Which shall be shared with the assessor. I'm okay with saying what should be shared with the assessor.
Yeah, which will be
Provided to
shared
the
by
assessor.
yes, provided to the assessor.
Okay. So anyway, so I know you all were discussing this, and then I was kind of reading while you all were discussing. So where are we with the point that Jeff raised about can we? So we're believing that somebody's C of O could be revoked.
Oh yeah, I think if the offense is egregious enough, I mean,
But legally,
Again.
we've known C of Os to be revoked. I thought usually once you got a C of O, you had it.
I'm pretty sure it can be revoked. I mean, if you cause an environmental catastrophe on your property, or you know, cause some kind of hazard, you know, I'm sure that there's a means for that. But I know we've talked to the planning board too about that in the past. Like SUPs can be revoked. I'm pretty sure. See, I'm 99% sure it came up in discussion. I mean, it's drastic.
Mhm.
But so is a $5,000 fine a day. It doesn't mean we'll do it for everyone.
Can't you?
Yeah, it seems to be illegal. That's fine.
It seems to be legal. Okay,
Yeah, I
right.
just did a search. It seems to be illegal.
Okay. So I'm moving it to where I am in the document.
I was going
Um,
to put something like violations issued, add that to that.
what were you saying, Jude?
Okay, violating these standards at any time may cause their special, well, okay, violation notices to be issued.
Do you need to
That's
add that there,
what happens when somebody violates, they get a violation. I don't know.
You said what happens when somebody gets a violation?
Well, when somebody does something that's contrary to the zoning law, they receive a violation. They get a notice.
Right.
So you're saying here, if they violate these standards anytime, it may cause their special use permits and or certificates. Okay. They may receive a violation that will cause their, I don't know. It's okay, leave it. I mean, I'm just thinking about what the process is.
does it actually want to say stating that violating these standards at any time may result in a fine, in fines or cause and or cause? Because we do fines too, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we did, but that's a good place to put.
I would say result in fines that are cause fines, but that's just my wording.
You say result in fines? Okay,
Result in fines, yeah.
okay. Whoops. Okay. It may result in fines and or cause.
We want to capitalize the C in the O in certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
So I have a question on this part of it, and this is more of a, not a law question, but an actual process question.
Mhm.
It seems to me like we can create a list today of all of the lots that are in the certificate, that are in the scenic overlay. Should we just have that list created now by SBL?
Well, I know that, you know, on the planning board, Judy Kerman's on the planning board and she does mapping. And so when the planning board gets it, she'll always bring up the map and she would always say, this is in the scenic overlay. She knows that. Excuse me. So I think that the ZEO needs the list more than the planning board does because Judy always has it on the map. And do we create it today? You know, I guess we could, but this law says here's what we would do with it.
I mean, it's not rocket science to find out what lots are in the scenic overlay. And it seems like if I were the ZEO, I would have that list someplace on my desk. But just a thought.
Yeah, but what I might do is I might add up here though, because the computerized list of all properties and should provide to the assessor. I would also say and to the planning board secretary, because we're saying both the assessor. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then the assessor. Hang on a sec. Oh, because that list properties notify the ZEO of the new property owner. That's what the ZEO needs to know, the new property owner. But then I wonder whether the list should be provided.
Yeah, actually, maybe it's not that the list should be just made available, but it should be, where did it say, list of all properties within the scenic overlay that shall be provided to relevant government boards, you know, essentially like that, something so, you know, the assessor has it on hand, the planning board, the building department can access it, but it's not posted online.
How about shall be
Why
maintained?
not?
How about shall be maintained?
But why not
And made
post it?
available.
Yeah, well, and it seems like a privacy thing to me, you know, and I know what your property isn't really private on the one hand, but on the other hand, it just seems to me if you go, it seems to me like we're picking on people. If I go to the Woodstock website and the only properties listed on the website are, here's your scenic overlay, and nobody else's property is listed there, but just the scenic overlay, I would be uncomfortable. And I'm not in the scenic overlay, but I would be uncomfortable. You know, here are all the Xena properties, and there's my property, but you don't list any other lists of properties, but you're only listing here's in Xena.
Want a little wine?
What's
Sure,
that?
give it a little white. Oh, I'm sorry. I was not on mute. I
What?
would
Yeah,
just.
I know.
Sorry about that.
Jeff has his hand up. I didn't hear what you said. Give it a little what? Anyway, never mind.
White.
Wait. Anyway, Jeff, you have your hand up.
Can we just, again, I'm kind of wordsmithing, but instead of saying which shall be provided to the assessor, can we say town of Woodstock shall create a computerized list of properties within the scenic overlay, period. Shall maintain, instead of create, shall maintain a computer. Because all we're maintaining, we're not necessarily maintaining who owns it, we're maintaining the SBLs.
Well,
They don't
and it
change
was,
that
but
often.
so you're creating, yeah, but the whole point is going to be provided to the assessor, because when there's a new owner, the new owner has to be given the scenic overlay law. So the whole reason to give it to the assessor is because they'll know when a new owner has come in, and that new owner needs to be made aware of the law. So that's the whole point with the assessor, of why the assessor needs it. But I think the planning board secretary, but I think the planning board already knows who's in the scenic overlay. So I think this is probably okay. But this is why it's going to the assessor, is so that when somebody buys property in the scenic overlay, then the ZEO can notify them, hey, you know, just so you know, we have this law.
My issue, the issue.
I'm sorry, real quick. So you don't think, sorry, go ahead.
The issue is the word create. Create means is a one-time activity.
Yeah, but the properties within the scenic overlay district don't
Well,
really change.
yeah, okay, no, I agree. Jeff's got to go
Yeah.
create and
Yeah.
maintain.
Create and maintain.
Oh, you want create and maintain?
Create
Yeah,
and
create
maintain.
first and then maintain.
Okay. And speaking of wordsmithing, if we just said maintain, they have to create it first, right? But we can say create,
Yes.
maintain. That's fine.
Yes.
All right. It'll be fewer words if we just said shall maintain. They'd have to
No.
create to be able to maintain it. But if
Well,
you like,
they can create it and then not update it. If the maintain means to update it and keep it.
correct. But I just know if we need the
current.
word create in there, because they only have to create it once. I didn't know if we
No,
get rid of
no, create and maintain is good.
the.
'Cause
Okay,
that
all right.
Ask them to do it and then to stay on it and add to it.
Yep. Okay. All righty. Okay, so I know we had kind of gotten beyond this. And I think that the ZEO and the planning board, they tend to know, you know, they know when things come in, whether something's in the scenic overlay. I think that's something they automatically look at. So I don't think they need the list so much. But again, the assessor needs it so that somebody knows to tell new property owners about the law. So I'm down to A now.
To make sure this happens, is there, I know we talked about having some kind of a paperwork trail behind this. Does the ZEO, when it sees a building permit or special use permit, does the ZEO have to go through a process where they check to see if it's there, and is there paperwork trailing? Is there?
I thought it was part of the application. If somebody puts in a building permit application, I thought whether something's in the scenic overlay was part of what was on it. I thought.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but that's what I thought. I'm pretty sure that they know. And if you want, I can go look up a building permit application.
I guess the reason I asked that is because I know that people have missed it.
Right.
You know, I know people have missed it. They did not know it was in the scenic. They were not told it was in the scenic overlay, and they.
Okay.
Put
Yeah,
trees.
I need to stop sharing so I can. I'm just stopping sharing so I can see all of my screen. And I'm about to go to the town website and see if I can find a building permit, which I believe I can. So,
yeah, so it is on the building permit. It's a checkbox. There's a checkbox that says, is this in the scenic overlay? It's definitely gotten missed in the past. And that's part of the reason why adding the assessor to this process. So as part of this logic,
Can we change that checkbox to say yes or no? So it must have an answer. Because right now you're relying on them checking yes, as opposed to actually checking and knowing whether it is or isn't.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. Is that something we write into law or suggest to the building department?
Yes, it's probably.
I think it'll be a suggestion. I don't think it would be in the law. So, yeah. Okay. So anyway, so at least we know it's covered as a checkbox, and I don't know who would tell them, but I'll make a note that, ask that on building permit, scenic overlay, check box is yes, no, so must answer. Yeah, and the thing is, and then the other question is, when the applicant fills out the building permit and they say no, well, maybe that's a part of maybe that's part of the building permit that's filled out by the office, by the planning office, building department, that and don't have the applicant fill it out because they might not know. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but that's part of my thing is like, we had gone through this at one point with the building department and reviewing their application process.
Mhm.
And they didn't end up making any changes. So this thing with the assessor is just another point of accountability. So it's not on the ZEO to determine whether properties are in the overlay district or not. The idea is even before they apply for a building permit, once the sale happens, the assessor is notified. That's the earliest point we can get in there and make them aware of it.
Okay. So I'm watching my clock and I'm, we don't go beyond an hour and a half. So I am watching my clock. So I just want to go through through all of this. So I'm still reading down through what I see on this page. Okay, I'm scrolling down.
And all that's existing.
Mhm. Okay.
The blue is added, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just kind of going down through this kind of quickly. So all the black is already there.
Going to CES.
So what's the old black? Is that new text?
Yeah, well,
That is
before
new text, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, but so before I send it anywhere, I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull up the current text and I'll mark this up so that it's a consistent way of everybody knowing what's added. Because theoretically we would be what they call redlined, and I'm not sure if I'll be using red, but probably. Yeah, and we include the definition of non-essential tree cutting.
And don't wait for me or anything. I read through this before.
Okay. Okay, and the aerial drone footage, which is a good thing. Well, so here's yeah, and here's Jude. I think some of this there. Here you go. It is that the planning board may waive the special use permit required with the following circumstances. One is it's situated so it cannot be seen from neighboring escarpments, scenic elevations, roadways, or other aesthetically sensitive areas.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, and that happens all the time.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll, since this is all stuff that we didn't change. I'm scrolling down. Fine uses, so I guess the underline is what we did again, I think.
we talked about this fine of 5,000 per day, and that's
We talked about it. I didn't like it. I was outvoted. I thought it was high. You know, everybody says, oh, these people in the scenic overlay have tons of money and we're just and they don't care if they get a small fine. And my point is not everybody in the scenic overlay has tons of money. It's jumping to
Which is
conclusions.
why it's a fine up to 5,000 per day and not a fine of 5,000 per day. The fact
But
is,
Jeff, what,
I live in the scenic overlay. I have friends in the scenic overlay who respect the view shed, and if we accidentally cut down a tree, yeah, we don't have 5,000 a day. But it's not that everyone in the scenic overlay does, but it's that enough people do that it has become a problem.
so Jeff, what is your opinion on the
I
5,000?
I missed the up to. Thank you, Connor, for pointing that out.
Oh, okay.
No worries.
And also begins 2 weeks of notification via certified mail, so they would have gotten a notification. And may be paused when a satisfactory remediation plan is provided and being implemented on schedule. So it does say you got to get your plan in place. So you get this. And I guess that you would think the daily fine ought to be paused when the remediation plan is in place and being implemented. So this is a little worrisome that somebody could still get fined a daily fine, even when they've done their plan and say it's winter, they can't implement it, but they can implement it as soon as the spring comes. And this, according to this, they might still get a fine. So I guess I'm not
Well,
happy.
I'm reading as that is the daily fines may be paused when a satisfactory remediation plan is provided and being implemented on schedule. The thing
Exactly.
is that schedule is to be determined by the planning board, CEO, and or these bodies we've been talking about, like the tree committee or the WEC. So that schedule should be reasonable and be aware of and incorporating of seasonal limitations.
No, but according to this, the daily fine may be paused, which means we could really stick it to somebody and give them a daily fine every day, even though the ground's all frozen over in January, which is not this month, but anyway, most Januaries and Februarys, the ground's all frozen over, and say they have a satisfactory plan and they submit it in like December, but they can't go implement it until March or April. According to this, we could still bill them the $5,000 a day, and they can't do anything. I would like to say the daily fine shall be paused, as opposed to it may be paused, meaning the person can't do anything about this. They're gonna, they got a plan in place. Do you like it? They're doing everything they can to remediate, but the winter's here and they can't. But we're gonna still bill them $5,000 a day, and we don't care that they can't do anything because of the winter.
Well,
So
again, I more than removing the may, and I know I advocated for the removal of a may elsewhere.
Mhm.
I would say, I guess it could be acceptable to me, because the idea here is this isn't just punitive for punitive sakes. The
Mhm.
fines need to make sure that they pay for whatever the remediation is. And perhaps, and again, and also serve as an incentive to follow the law. So, when I read this, I'm imagining more, benevolent activity on the board saying, whenever we have people come before people come before the planning board during my time, they were very sensitive about, there is a building season, and to me,
Right.
when the idea of reading in being implemented on schedule does not mean immediately. It means on schedule.
Well, and the other thing about schedule, and I'm okay to put a word in there. I'm not quite sure what the right word is, but it needs to be implemented on an aggressive schedule, right? You don't want to say, oh, I have it scheduled to do 5 years from now. No, you need to do it in the next season, So I'm not sure.
I'd be down if you look, if we say if we replace may with shall, and we could insert something like provided and being implemented on a timely schedule.
I think there's a couple of things here. First of all, to me, the remediation plan has a schedule with it. And so implemented on the schedule defined by the remediation plan makes more sense to me.
I like that better too. So maybe erase timely and put in
Remediation
what
plan,
Jeff said.
including a
Yeah. And we'll delete everything.
Well, you have to have the remediation plan with the schedule and is being implemented on schedule. according to that schedule.
The other question I have is what does satisfactory, who defines satisfactory remediation plan? Who's it
That would be-
satisfactory to?
That would be the, I guess, the contacted board, either the CEO or the planning board.
I think we need to say that.
Okay. And maybe we can also make reference to section C in section D, if that makes things clearer. But so let me just read that one more time. The daily fine shall be paused when a satisfactory remediation plan, including a timely implementation schedule, is accepted by the zoning enforcement officer or the planning board.
I'm fixing my typos. The daily fine is approved by the remediation plan. Okay, so when I heard you, I was busy doing this kind of where you were saying what you were saying. I'm not sure if I put the things in the place that you were saying.
I think you should just add planning board before or after zoning enforcement officer.
Okay. Because sometimes this is in front of the commencement
board.
date. But we've all already said that the planning board does not do enforcement. So
That's true. So then it would be passed on to the zoning enforcement officer. So then we'll leave it. Yeah, CEO.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
And next part is just a repeat of the
Okay.
definition of non-essential.
Okay. And I think we did that to make sure that it stood out.
Yeah, and we'll leave it there, but it's the same as up top.
Right. Or do we, or is it redundant to have it in two places? Is it better to have it in one place?
I defer to Ed on that one. I can go either way.
I think it was in two places for one reason, and I can't quite remember what it was, but I think we should just leave it.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
because
let's leave
here's
it.
what's prohibited in the scenic overlay district. And I think that we had it because this other section had a different header.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah, we'll
proposed
just leave
development
it.
shall include, and okay. And for some reason, I see a little straggler. Personal wireless service facility, I think was a straggler, right? That doesn't belong there, right, Ed? Isn't that a
Yeah,
straggler?
no, that's it. That's not
That's-
allowed.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no,
part of the law.
okay, cool,
That's
okay.
part of the law.
And need full ZRC. I think we have close enough to a full ZRC. Oh, with the exceptions of ethics, other committee responsibilities are not right. Committee mission stay on town website. Okay, we've already talked about that. Okay, and then we've already gone through this.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I can send everybody this right now, so everybody can kind of be thinking this through. I'm going to match it against the current law because I'm going to make sure it's redlined.
Well, I mean, if I may, Laura, I mean, you know, we've gone through this. We, like Ed said, and I appreciate all the work everyone else done on this. I mean, I feel ready to move forward with this as amended. I'd like to start getting input from the WEC so we can,
Okay.
you know,
Well,
move on it shortly. I'd like to, if we're not going to make any additional changes, I'd like to make a motion to advance this draft as amended.
Okay, so what, and I'll clarify that if I may. So my plan then, after I've made sure that I've got a copy that is accurately, consistently redlined, let's say, because this has blue, it's got black, it's got, red line,
Sure.
red line, right? So I'm gonna take this and from this create a copy that is accurately redlined, so that people will, so people will get a redline copy. I'll be sending it to the WEC, and then we will plan for our next meeting, which is the second Monday in
The
February.
13th, right?
What's that?
13th, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll plan for that meeting to be our meeting where we finalize this we'll get any WEC input, and the plan is we'll get it to the town board. So everybody on this committee will have one last chance to look at the whole thing. We'll hear what the WEC has to say. So this is the copy that's ready to go to the WEC as soon as I make
Okay.
sure it's accurately redlined.
And do we need to vote on that or anything, or are we ready to pass that
Well,
along?
we can.
as
And
is?
just a second. Let me get my note. I'm a note taker. Let me get my notes. So send to WEC, and then 2/13, we said 2/13/23 meeting is ZRC final review. So we'll have a chance to digest this and sit on it for a couple of weeks. The WEC will have a chance to look at it, and then we will. Oh, and I think we lost our guest.
Yeah, Claire sent a chat, said goodbye and thank you.
Say goodbye. Okay. Okay.
But I'm definitely supportive of that, and if everyone else is, because I'd really like to see this pass. I talked to Laura a little bit about it before, but building season will be upon us, and if we can get this out the door before the end of Q1, I think we might be able to actually save some trees.
Yeah, well, there you go. So Connor, I'm taking you as making the motion, send it to the WEC, and
Yes.
and I'm adding to that. And then our February 13th meeting will be a ZRC, our committee final review. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Yay, Jude. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yay. All
But
approved.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long does the ZEC have to make their comments?
WEC. Well, my plan
I
is
mean,
to send it to the WEC meets the first and the third Wednesday of the month. And I'm going to tell them that we're trying to get to this town board as soon as possible. And I go to their meetings. So I'm going to ask them to bring to their first meeting in February, which will be the first Wednesday. I'm going to ask them, well, I'm going to get this to them and give them like at least a week to review it, and then ask them to have it on their agenda so that we have a consolidated response, if possible, at that first meeting. So that's what I will ask them for. They may say they need more time, but it's not a whole ton of pages really. So
Yeah, I don't think they should. The idea being we'll send it out now, ask them to have a response ready in a day, within a couple days of their meeting.
Well, you might point out to them that we have gotten testimony or recommendations from members of the planning board besides Connor, including a real good set of recommendations from the guy's name I forget. Connor would remember him. And
Was it Peter?
but Stuart,
it was he's a lawyer.
that would be Stuart. Wasn't that
Yes.
Stuart?
Probably Stuart then, yeah.
Yeah, Stuart. He came up with a tremendous basket of good suggestions. So anyway, we've been working on this, Connor and I especially, but with Laura's help for over a year or 2 years or 3. It was one of the first things that Connor brought up at a meeting in 2019.
Yeah.
You know, and so
we're doing
we've
it.
really been working on it for 3 years. So now we really have carefully crafted this thing. So
Yes.
Yeah.
you know,
So
heads
if
up.
they ask for more time, I'm really not super
Yeah, so
inclined to
just
give it
let
to them.
them,
I'd
you know,
rather.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry,
okay,
I know, but like, yeah.
yeah.
But
That's all.
part of the point is, and as you point out, Connor, the building season is coming up, and so there is a time factor here. And the other thing is, it won't be the WEC's last opportunity to give input, because it's got to go to the town board, it's got to go to the planning board, it's got to go to the public hearing. So if I say if they want to get their input in before it goes to the town board, here's their deadline, but that's not their final deadline in the whole life of the thing. So I think it's okay to.
Sure, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So excellent. I mean, guys, I can't even tell you how happy this makes me to see this move forward. It has been something that's been very personal to me almost ever since I moved back. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yep. Well, and thank you, Connor, for your enthusiasm and passion for it, and thank you, Ed, for your, bringing it to life. And thank you to everybody on the Zoning Revision Committee, because we've certainly crawled through it several times now, and it gets better each time. So good stuff. I see Jeff's hand up.
Moving beyond this particular zoning change, what's next?
Well, I think because we're at 8 o'clock, I think our next meeting will be consumed with this, and we'll talk about that next time. What I will say is, if I go back to the agenda, is this list of stuff here at the bottom, and I'll make it bigger here. The Housing Oversight Task Force will probably give our committee some select topics. There's the law that came from the planning board that I sent around to everybody 2 years ago that, hey, we ought to think about this. They asked for it. Let's think if it makes sense. So we want to look at that at some point. Complete Street sent a statement that I sent around almost a year ago. We can think about that. It's not very fleshed out. It's some high level stuff. We talked about noise, maybe taking on noise. We talked about maybe taking on some tree law. We talked about a sign law, because our sign law is kind of antiquated and everybody ignores it anyway. So we can look at that. And I think Jude may have some input for us on that based on what comes from the ZBA. We could look at definitions in general. Now the STR law is being revamped by another group, but in any event, so that's kind of what's on the list. But I think that because we know what we're going to talk about next time is polishing this law and having it ready to go to the town board. I'm not worried about picking the next thing today. I think we can, but that's what's on the current list. And we can add to the list, we can change the list. We can go back to our original mission statement that came from the comprehensive plan and see what else is on there, because there are things that we've done a great job on, and there's some stuff that we really haven't touched yet. So it's up to us what we want to look at next.
If we took on the STR law, would that be a problem for the town?
Well, I think that Maria Elena is driving that right now. So it may be seen as stepping on toes if we try to snatch it.
I am really not worried about that, because to be honest, I want to bring up the noise law, and the thing that everyone keeps telling me, well, Bennett and Elena have a committee, and sorry, but bless their hearts, they've been having a committee for 2 years now, and I'd be surprised if they've had more than one meeting, just the two of them. So I'm not worried about stepping on toes that aren't,
well, and the noise law, I haven't seen progress on, but I have seen some progress on
dancing.
Yeah, I have seen some progress. Yeah, right. And I went to they held a public hearing, and what's happened since then, I don't have an answer for you. And in all fairness to them, it's been 1 year, not 2 years, but because they've been in office only for 1 year. But it was early on, they held this public hearing, and so anyway, I haven't seen progress. So I think that we wouldn't be stepping on toes if we picked up the noise law. The STR law, there has been some progress, and we're supposed to have the town board talking about it. But what I probably should do for this committee is share the latest STR law, because there are a lot of questions that came up. And what I should plan to do is share what I know about the STR law and what revisions are being thought of. So that's probably something I should share so that we can weigh in. So let me say share STR law info.
Do we have white vinegar?
I'll call it questions. So, okay. All righty. So we'll get, so my thought is, and I see your hand, Jude. So my thought is next time we'll talk more about laws in progress, but that's kind of what's on the list. And I'm actually going to add to it, yeah, and or remaining comp plan items. It's already there. Okay, Jude, yes.
I was just gonna say good night.
Yeah,
Are you making a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Jude,
moved.
do we have a second? Is that Connor?
Yes,
Was Connor
second.
second? I gave it to Connor. Thank you so much. This is like Connor said, a great stride forward, feels wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. You have a good night.
You too.
Bye.